Hello, everyone. I'm Mislav. I'm the CEO of DEV3, but throughout my career, I've been working on Solidity development, front-end development for web3 apps. I'm a co-author of one of the first textbooks on blockchain development. So what I'm about to speak now comes from a large body of personal experience designing, building, and trying to actually monetize web3 apps. To be honest, currently analytics in Web3 pretty much suck. And we'll get to why they are, but the general consensus is that you're using tools that are not built for the platform that you are deploying on. So like Google Analytics, stuff like that. It's not really, let's say, blockchain friendly or even privacy friendly, which is very important in blockchain. So this is our first point. So traditional analytics like Google Analytics, Mixpanel, Amplitude, or whatever, they track basically email-based conversion events. So people open up an account or they go to your Shopify store and they purchase whatever you're selling. So they use like credit card, payment processing, emails, backend calls, and all of these things that we don't really do in Web3. They can track that really, really well. You can attribute your campaigns, you can track users, retarget them, all of these fancy things you can do no problem. But then once you are at a point where you need to, let's say, retarget certain wallet owners, like let's say I want to retarget everyone whose wallet has a net worth more than like $1,000, it's basically impossible without like asking your developer to spend 3 or 4 weeks building out an entire framework for retargeting. So the second part of the story is that we do have analytics in blockchain, but they're not front-end analytics, right? They're on-chain analytics. Basically, what this means is that the analytics that we have now, like Dune, like Etherscan, I would even consider to be partially analytics and insights and all of these things. So you can query your blockchain like very, very easily, and you can find stuff going in and out of addresses. But for example, like one of the speakers here, I think the sponsors on the conference, like Liquidity, an app like that, which has many front ends for a single set of smart contracts, it really doesn't work for them because you can see that some contract has been called like 1,000 times, but you might not know, was it 300 times from front end 1 and 700 times from front end 2, or was it some different type of ratio? So so basically traditional analytics give you an incomplete story, on-chain analytics give you another part of an incomplete story, and they don't match very well. To be honest, you can't really, combine Google Analytics with Dune queries. It's not a thing that will look elegant in any way, especially if you try to get your marketing team to do it, and they're maybe not like hackers who can understand like smart contract code. It's very, very difficult. So the simplest problem that we have is when you have one front end and your app is deployed on one chain. So that situation can even be hacked, sort of. So you can do custom events, right? You can use your Mixpanel or Google Analytics, and then you create a custom event which is called transaction completed or whatever. And then you wait for the transaction to complete, and then this custom event happens. First problem there, a developer has to do it. So for every new custom event that you want to do, you have to spend your developer's time to get them to work on it. The second problem is, that these events don't really have access to a lot of metadata. It's this custom event, unless you really give it your best and try to push like the blockchain call data and all of these things inside, they don't have the metadata. But even if you push like blockchain call data inside the event, it's not the best thing ever because the tool that you're using, like Google Analytics or Mixpanel, doesn't really know what to do with that. So it's very hard to make Google Analytics understand what's happening on chain when a custom event happens. But and this is already quite bad, and we are now talking about the simplest case possible for blockchain analytics. So the second level of difficulty is when you're deploying on many blockchain networks, but you still have one front end. So like, for example, this would be most DeFi NFT apps these days. So like Uniswap is on 5, 6 networks, or how many, 10, I don't know even. And it's still the same front end, but it interacts with a lot of different chains. There you have this problem of chain separation, right? So you can track certain things on Etherscan, but if you want to track them on Polygon, you should use Polygon scan, and then your data is never quite combined in a cohesive like whole, and yeah, so this makes the problem even worse. So now if you want to retarget, you have to say, okay, I want to retarget for this chain, for these users, but then I have to set up an RPC endpoint or whatever. When I'm pushing metadata into a custom event, I have to even now present chain information, what chain I'm using. And also, you don't get some very, very cool data that you could get with better analytics is, for example, what was the gas price at the point when the event happened. So we had this very interesting situation that we were doing this work for a custom client, and it's the mint went horribly, but not because of the problem in marketing or anything, but the gas price was super high at that point, and people just didn't want to bother because it was like a non-speculative NFT mint, which was just like a collectible thing that doesn't have any real value, so it wasn't worth it for people to spend like $50 to mint it. But we actually didn't realize it until like a few days later, because nowhere in analytics it said, oh, like your user came to your website, clicked mint, and then saw the price in MetaMask and dropped out. So I didn't have this information, and it was crucial information because it was the exact step where my users were dropping off. So that's let's say the second level of difficulties when you have many chains, many gas prices, many RPC providers, but you're still working with one front end. So the same level of difficulty, level 2, but would be just flipped on its side. So when you have one deployment on one chain, but you are now getting into serious DeFi territory. So now you have multiple front ends. So I really like apps that have multiple front ends, like, I mentioned Liquidity already, but like Yearn and Curve, and a lot of apps have basically independently developed and maintained front ends, which I think is a very, very important part of decentralization and being able to access these apps depending on like geo-blocking or legal restrictions in some countries. For example, if an US-based developer is developing a front end, they're not allowed to offer it in Iran. But if an Irani-based developer makes a front end, of course, he or she is allowed completely to do it. So this is a very good way to build more resilient apps. But now your troubles start with analytics. So now even Etherscan can't help you because Etherscan has no idea which front end the transaction came from. Etherscan has no idea like how to, but like Google Analytics can't work in this case because you would have 5 instances of Google Analytics all connected to custom events on a single smart contract, and then you would somehow have to teach your marketing people to understand the intricacies of every single chain and every single smart contract that is deployed. And one of the things that I don't have in the presentation, which is also very important, is that usually we have a lot of smart contracts. Like more complex apps can have like 10, 15, 20 smart contracts running, and your users will maybe interact in a single transaction with 3 or 4 of them, and then you will see all of this as like many interactions on Etherscan, like a lot of transactions, but at the end of the day, it's just a single transaction. So yeah, so these are some of the most obvious problems with analytics. And then the worst cases, I'm not gonna even explain this one. It's basically the worst of both worlds. So the worst of many chains and the worst of many front ends. So these are the challenges. I mean, the talk is called challenges, but I'm not gonna just tell you the challenges and then leave. So what are the solutions? So I am currently collaborating with a company, a disclaimer, that does a tool that solves this. It's called Polyflow, helping them out on something. And this is how I actually got to the idea of this talk. But how this came to be. So we had this app that was a low-code environment, which is called DEV3. We still have it. And we had, I think, 300,000 events on Google Analytics. Like people landed on our landing page, tried to open an account and everything, but then it converted into a very low number of actual users. But what we realized through many days of like looking at the data and understanding it and taking that we are blockchain developers, like we can understand this data, is that users who were landing didn't even have wallets. They weren't blockchain users. They were like people who somehow accidentally stumbled upon our website, and maybe they're regular developers. They wanted to see how it works, but they needed a wallet to open up our app, and so they dropped off as soon as they understood that they need to install MetaMask. And so this kind of sparked this idea of thinking about how analytics can be done better. So how it's being solved? It's being solved by installing a tracker script, basically, in the header of an application. So this tracker script, in its most simplest form, basically tracks all RPC events that are being triggered from the front end to the blockchain. It listens to them and then stores them in a backend database. Then this backend has RPC providers for many chains and queries on-chain data. And there is a data engine behind it, which can combine this off-chain and on-chain data into something you can understand. So you can say, okay, look, I have these 3 marketing campaigns: my Twitter paid ads, my LinkedIn paid ads, and I don't know, my organic growth hacking or whatever, referrals. And so I want to track how much they are converting. And this tool can give you like information, how many of those people actually had wallets. Of those who had wallets, how many of them actually connected their wallet? How many of those people executed a transaction? If they executed a transaction, what was it? Which smart contract did they interact with? And on what chain did they interact with this smart contract? And then you can attribute stuff like, okay, please tell me like which campaign performs best on high net worth users, or which campaign performs best on certain NFT collection owners, which campaign performs best on, let's say, users who are very active on chain, who have more than 600, 700 transactions or something like that. So you can write like actionable on-chain queries, which are then connected with your front end, which can be deployed on multiple front ends, and you will exactly know from which front end which transaction came, because you are tracking it at the level of the front end, not at the level of the blockchain. So this is not the only tool that does this. There are a lot of tools, and I've been exploring them, but most of them approach it the similar way. So it's you do something, you catch certain events on the front end, you combine all the marketing and analytics things from traditional analytics, and then you combine them with all the blockchain data into something meaningful. This enables you to do a blockchain-based retargeting, as I mentioned. It enables you just to get general insights in your app, like, oh, I'm having a lot of users who are coming and using Wallet Connect, or I'm having a lot of users who are using MetaMask or Coinbase Wallet, so maybe I should, or I'm having a lot of users who don't have a wallet, maybe I should make a very, very easy to understand guide to get them their first wallet. So these are the type of insights that I wouldn't have before, and now with these modern analytics tools, these are some of the things I can do. So I'm a bit involved in the space, not too much, but it's a very, very interesting new development in blockchain, which I'm very looking forward to see how it goes, and how marketing and analytics are going to look for web3 apps in the future. I think the bear market is the perfect market for these types of tools, because it used to be in the bull, you just throw money at everything and then hope something sticks. Now teams are actually like, they have limited budgets, they have KPIs they need to hit, they want to become profitable, they want to acquire users at a cheaper cost. So yeah, that's basically it. I don't have any pictures or slides. I like my presentations to be like verbal presentations, not really visual. But yeah, that's about it. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Just a sec.
We have also one person here.
Is there any future plans that you can share with us regarding development?
So this is not my project, just advisor. I'm helping them out, but I think they're a early stage project. I think they're very heavy in development right now, to be honest. So yeah, and I think it's one project that's worth taking a look at. But I don't want to be like the shilly guy, look. But there are others. There is like with Blaze, they do like marketing attribution. There is addressable, they do retargeting. There is Cookie3, I think they do like some cross-site tracking on blockchain wallets. There is, yeah, Yeah, there is quite a few tools. Yeah, so I think the market is like growing very heavily. I think the approach that the team at Polyflow is taking is a very good approach. But one thing that they do specifically is that it's open source, so that's great. Yeah, I advise everyone to take a look at all of the solutions and then make an informed judgment.
Thank you.
We have one more, right?
Yes.
So how do you understand if a user has a wallet or not if he goes into your landing page? So it could be someone that doesn't want to connect his wallet, or the wallet maybe, I don't know, if it's a Chrome add-on, for example, it could be disabled.
Yeah.
There are several factors to it.
So so this doesn't have wallet is at best incomplete data, but it's better than what you could have usually. So you can detect most wallets as extensions because they inject a Boolean into the source code. It's called, like for MetaMask, the Boolean is literally called isMetaMask. So in your SDK, you check like wallet.isMetaMask, and then it'll tell you, even if you don't connect the wallet, it will tell you that a user has MetaMask. So for example, you cannot detect that a user doesn't have a wallet, but you can detect that they do. So, you know, that's the way to look at it. Like if you want to just know how many people don't have wallets, that's where you're gonna get a lot of false positives. But if you wanna know how many people actually do have wallets, that's where like everyone that you think has a wallet actually has a wallet. So that's one additional info that you can have. But of course, once they connect the wallet, then it's a whole different game. So I think there might be also some interesting stuff that people can do to incentivize people to connect wallets, like, oh, connect wallet and win an NFT or whatever, just so you can get the data. Because, you know, even like traditional marketing, you always get like these lead pop-ups. So leave your email, we'll give you 10% off. So traditional marketers are very, very comfortable with this. I really want some information from you so that I can retarget you in the future. I can, you know, get you back on the page. Web3 marketers are still struggling with this. So I think if there's any way you can get the user to give you their address, that's amazing, because then you can do very interesting things in the future when so for example, one of the cool things that you can do with these tools is if a user returns for the second time and you see that they haven't, you know, connected the wallet, or they didn't do a transaction, you can like have a pop-up, is something wrong? We notice, you know, you have landed the transaction, please contact our customer support, we'll be more than happy to help you. So this is how you can like increase your retention rates, reduce drop-offs, and all of these things. Yeah, I think we have one more.
Thanks for the presentation. I like the style, you know, like complete focus on yourself. Don't look at the slides.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just curious if the solution is able to handle a situation where a user has multiple addresses. So like, for example, like using the front end, it uses one address and like the other address either through the front end or through, I don't know, either scan calls. Like, is the solution is able to detect like this is a person?
So I'm not sure about the others. For Polyflow, I know that it has smart address merging. So it is able to sometimes detect that the same user has multiple addresses, and then it will just merge it into the single user. So what it can do is if you access the same front end and just switch wallets, right, it will understand that this is a single person. It doesn't think it's two people. But also so this is where it gets tricky. This is now disabled in Polyflow. I'm not sure about other tools. You could also do a thing if multiple people are using your analytics tool. If they connect with one wallet here and with another wallet there, you could, on the back end, potentially merge it. They don't currently do it. I think they want to do it open source because there's a big can of worms about privacy, GDPR, and all of these things. So I think like Cookie3, as far as I know, they do this like cross-site tracking, but then you get into this kind of GDPR compliance, cookie consent territory that I think is very scary for a lot of like Web3 app owners to do. So other ones, yeah, they do address merging into a single user, but it's not 100% success rate. But I would say like success rate should be very, very high, because you can also do a different thing. For example, if a user is using multiple browsers, but then connects with the same address through two browsers, then you know that those two browsers are the same person, and then you can merge two browser IDs into the same person, and then if they go with this other browser to a different app and connect with a different wallet, you can merge all these three things into this is one user. And since an address is not currently considered personally identifiable information by the European Union, GDPR also works. You don't need special consents. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your attention, and yeah.
Thank you, Mislav, very much for your speech and your thorough answers.